Hello. So இன்னைக்கு நம்ம பார்க்க போறது என்னன்னா டாக்ஸிக் fuck. Hey, what? There's another mic somewhere. Apparently. Where is this mic? Okay, I just realized my mic. Fuck. Hello, hello, hello. It's somewhere here then. Yeah, I've been searching for my mic for a while, but where the fuck is it? Where the fuck is it, bro? Reveal yourself. Ooh. Oh, I'm trying to find my mic. It's somewhere around here, and I need to find it because I really need it. Ooh, 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 ooh. Bro, it's somewhere here. Somewhere in here. Don't know where. Can it be? But it's getting my audio though, so it's not the end of the world. I could like be here, but I would love to find it. Fuck it, let's just like find it on stream. Why not? Ooh, ooh, ooh. Bro, I don't see it. I don't see it, mate. I don't see it. Where the fuck is this mic? I'm searching in places that's not even possible for there to be a mic. No fucking way. I just found it. Just found it. Hello. Okay, I just found it. But the issue is, though. Hmm. Hello. 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 Hmm. Hello. Hello. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? What the fuck? What even is the point? I don't get it, bro. Don't get it, bro. Get on my dick, bro. Hello. Shh. Toot, 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 toot. It did work. Oh my god. It works. Cool. I don't want the mic to be cut out. Okay. Hello. 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 Okay, it's two different audios. Two different audios. It's cool. It's fine. Okay. Okay, I found my thing. So what is going on here? Okay, let's just like look at the study in itself. Toxic masculinity. It's referencing health and see what is toxic masculinity, why does it matter? DOI. Oh, don't do that, please. Oh, I need to like fucking pay you money. The present study sought out to develop a valid following skill. Okay. Conflict in similar. What the fuck is this? Let's debunk these bitches one by one. One by one. Brick by brick. Give me a second though. Hello. Hello. So you shouldn't be able to hear me, but you do. So what is going on? Is this what is actually going on? What's actually going on? What's actually going on? It's actually, bro, there's no way it's capturing that. Fucking no. There's something wrong with my audio. But nevertheless, let's just pretend it doesn't exist. Good thing is I got my thing. That's actually good. I don't know if it works or not. Oh my god, bro. Okay, let's just look into the actual study. Go to the database. Okay. Okay, let's take a read. Toxic masculinity scale development and initial validation. Abstract. Fucking hell, just move away. Okay. School of Psychology Science, Oregon State University, Cornell's. Okay. Abstract. The present study sought out to develop a validate the toxic masculinity scale. Following the scale development, the best practices throughout the review, the literature, and existing measure, we concluded the next quantitative inquiry using grouped theory approach. What the fuck is group theory approach? Okay, it's kind of a social. That's how like social media works and stuff. Networking. I mean, like a network of people which I'm employed to develop a data-driven definitive definition of toxic masculinity. 150 instruments items. These were items were reviewed and modified with input of context expert. We are like six contact experts. Initially, were administrative. Okay, of white undergraduate men, so 18 to 22. Exploratory factors analysis indicate the five structure: masculine superiority, gender rigidity, emotional. Okay, I need to write this down. I'm being a true scientist by writing shit down. So we got like fuck, it's too bright. Give me a second though. Another second. Okay. Lot of issues later. I'm still here. Lot of technical issues. So okay, they're getting masculine superiority, gender rigidity, emotional restrictions. Okay. It's all like gay. Emotional restrictions, repressed suffering. Oh my god. Repressed suffering, whatever that means. And domination and desire. Okay. It's like so bad to have it. It's like, yeah, wanting to. Okay. Item analysis yield 35 item 5 factor survey that was administered to second novel sample. Okay, we got like 400 and. Bro, that's not a lot of numbers though. We got like 408 men, undergraduate white men, confirmatory factor analysis and indication of inequality fit. What the fuck does that mean? However, the fit was improved by reducing the scale length to 28 items. So they're overfitting. Are they overfitting in this? Factors analysis indicate the inadequate fit for 30. Are they talking about overfitting in here? What is going on? Removal of domination and desire factors. Okay, the last one was removed because yeah, like yeah, you have too much desire, bro. Yeah, men can have too much desire like that. Internal consistency, reliability, structure, validity, and discrimination validity were exposed with the sample. Okay, the TMSO demonstration a strong positive correlation with related measures CMIN and MRIN, and strong negative correlation with the diametrically opposed measure. What the fuck is this? Additionally, with TMSO demonstration, strong or inadequate. Okay, okay, I need to like copy this for scale overall. Uh, what the fuck is this? Con batch alpha? Nigga, what? It's a machine learning thing, isn't it? Okay, let's just look into it. What is it?
If you're just facing the question, what is Chromebox Alpha? How can I calculate it? And most importantly, how do I interpret the results? Then you're in the right place. And we start right away with the first question, what do I actually need Chromebox Alpha for? Let's say you have formulated a hypothesis in which there is a variable that cannot be measured directly, a so-called latent variable. In order to make latent variables measurable, a scale is used. So now what is a scale? A scale is a group of questions. So for example, question 1 to question 4, which are used to jointly measure a latent variable. The individual questions in a scale are called items. The goal now is that the responses to the various items match well. So for example, they should be highly correlated. Each individual question should correlate as highly as possible with every other question. If the answers to the questions are highly correlated, this is called a high internal consistency. And now we have finally arrived at the Cronbach's alpha. And it is precisely this internal consistency that Cronbach's alpha measures. So we can say that Cronbach's alpha is a measure of the internal consistency of a scale.
Okay, it just like predicts how much internal consistency it has. Cool. Okay, so this study demonstrated a strong. What's this study called, by the way? Okay, toxic masculinity 28 demonstrated a strong, adequate internal consistency scale. Okay, that's like 93%. I mean, 0.93 for four. So with the 5 one, they have alpha Chrome's batch of 0.93. For the first four, they have it's not really accurate. The future directions and implication for the instrument are discussed. Okay, who's writing these? Okay, we have Steven. I gotta look him up. He's probably fucking cock. Let's be honest here. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. I need to like look at these people though. I better see some. Bro, just want to see a fucking face, bro. Okay. What? Okay, why is there 400 white men? Like, come on, Sanders. Come on, my bro. We got like a toxic masculinity, urban secondary student explanation of secondary climate achievement, internalized racism. Okay, come on. Racial microaggression and mental health. Bro, this guy's cucked out. This is a cucked out dude. Okay, let's see another one. Okay. And Claudia, some Mexican. Oh my god. Excuse me. Excuse me. They got a beautiful names though, I gotta say. Had to say, bro. Had to say, nigga, what? Okay. Nicholas, bro, this guy's gonna be a cock. Telling you. Telling you, bro. Telling you. Licensed clinician interested in treatment. Okay. Oh my god. Oh my god. This guy's telling you things. Interesting. What else study do you have, bro? Hmm. Bro, why you looking like one of the extras from the Jack's Pirates of the Caribbean movie? You know what I mean? You don't have to have this. You know, you could go bald. You don't have to like hold on to it. Oh my god. Okay, masculine gender roles, stress and stigma for seeking help. Okay, cool. The roles. Okay, understanding difference between problematic pornography using. Okay, revisiting paradox. Hope. Okay. Does traditional masculinity relate in men and problematic pornography viewing? Okay. Ecological problematic pornography. Okay. Sided by anxiety, depression across sexual minorities, implicating transgender. Okay, bro, come on. Maroon, bro. Maroon, give me a break. And masculine executive language constructed. Okay, cool. Minorities as compulsive behavior, sexual behavior, experimental avoidance, psychopathy, intervention. Okay. Cool, 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 cool. Cool, you do you, King. You do you. And what about. Can I just click on this? Oh, don't do that. Don't do that, please. I just want to get a Filipino looking guy. Toxic masculinity scale development validation. I think it's a relatively new PhD, postdoctoral fellow. Objectifying and body obscene age group patterns in women's psychology function. Bro, why do you even care at this point, you know? Types of screen time, insomnia, depression, symptoms in college students, screen time, insomnia among college students. Okay, it's all college student shit. No one cares. Do these guys even make money doing this? That's like the biggest. They get money from these conglomerates that no one knows about. They have to pretend they're getting monies from all these studies when they're not. It's like this. Why do all of these guys have like unique names? Why don't they have like a name like Josh Smith? You know what I mean? Nice glutes. I'm the exact type of guy they're talking about, so it is funny. It is funny. I think these are like lesser known people. Yeah, yeah. Toxic masculinity. Radiology. Oh my god. Why is your teeth so yellow? You know you can clean it, right? Oh my god. Bro, what is going on in these teeth? Come on. Hygiene, please. Oh, we already know what's gonna what's gonna come from here. We got a Goldman statistical department. Okay, statistics. Yeah, this is the I think she's like the bottom of the barrel, so to speak. Okay, now we got the, what is it called again? Chromback, Chrombatch Alpha. Okay. Okay, what the fuck? Okay, copyright. Okay, toxic masculinity is a visible construct in a psychology of men. However, proxy instruments have been used historically for measurement. The present study provides a theory-driven definition of toxic masculinity validation instrument of measure to construct. Okay, toxic masculinity scale, development and initial validation. I think that's the first metric. No. Okay, the toxic masculinity is a construct coined by. I gotta look at this lovely woman. What is she doing here? No, it's not a brother. Brother, really? Like, really, bro? Really? Were you like bullied as a child or something? Come on. Come on, bro. Come on. You can't look like this and talk about toxic masculinity. It's hurting my feelings. To characterize his father as authoritarian masculine. Bro, yeah, you got like your ass kicked by your father. Now we're talking about toxic masculinity. Just don't be a pussy, like your father said, bro. Don't cry about it. Be a man. Behaviors in the army military. Yeah, it is true though that like some of these military guys are kind of like a stay hard, David Goggins, Jocko Willings, listening faggots. No specific behaviors were listed, although the terms can existed in the late 20th century. It has only relatively become popular in academia since the approximately 20 feminist theorists, scholars have been attributed undesirable okay, whatever that means, and misogyny, homophobia, physical violence to toxic masculinity for masculine trait and behavior to be prevented as toxic, perceived as toxic. They must be damaging to the person or people around them. Otherwise, those trait behavior are characterized as gender roles shaping the presentation of masculinity. Traits such as seeking domination and power, being work focused. Okay, come on. Taking risk and tough examples are traits associated with masculinity in these types of instrument. It's like normal masculinity. Cool. The conformity to masculinity norms (CMNI) is a series that measures the conformity to masculine norms to emphasize gender roles. In addition, the instrument is grounded in the work of, who is this bitch? Oh my god. Okay. Thankfully, I could kind of go around it, please. Okay. On these behaviors that emphasize societal domination, groups shape the norms that are embedded in our society. Moreover, the male role norms (MRI) zooms in on the traditional masculinity ideologies and beliefs about men. The instrument aims to capture the attitudes towards traditional masculinity in general, not oneself. In addition to a form, okay, another research often include heterosexualism, misogyny as a facets of toxic. Bro, come on. The term toxic masculinity has been employed in a pretty restricted as to societal based masculinity traits in hopes of reversing these gender norms to encourage more pro-social behavior. The American Psychology Association (APA) released a set of guidelines for those who work with men and boys, those, especially how to work with those present notion of traditional masculinity. They attributed the characteristics of masculinity, such as domination, aggression, to gender attitudes that manifest more in men. Bro, what is? It's like, yeah, duh. Toxic masculinity gets referred to a tandem with feminist, womanist ideas constructs. The term has been adopted by feminists as an easier way to discuss homophobia. Why is homophobia in male behavior? Toxic masculinity has been a vague, quick categorization in the person based on few different attitudes by they express. It is suggested that the idea of traditional masculinity in both sides were subscribed to themselves in gender construction. The definition of toxic masculinity fluctuates depending on the context. For example, the hegemonic masculinity sometimes uses a prosody of toxic masculinity manifestation of masculinity that characterized by enforcement of restriction behavior based on gender roles that serve reinforce power structure favor dominance of men. Okay, speaks on the systemic process of elevated men. Okay. Additionally, traditional masculinity is marked as stoicism, competitiveness, dominance, aggression, characterized by these inherent gender attitudes. In multiple studies examining the construct of toxic masculinity, instrument designed to assess the adherence and or toxic masculine traits are proxy toxic measures in social science and bro, too much words. Validated concerning in these instruments that they were intent to measure. It is important to study toxic establishment and prevalence, as well as how to explore these toxic masculine affect psychological men and well-being. And in addition, the study toxic masculinity may provide an insight on how the presence of these traits and affect in relationship, not only intimate partners with their family and themselves. In order to actively and effectively study toxic masculinity, the instruments used by the researchers need to be valid and reliable. Current research, the overreaching aim of the present. Let me make this big. The overreaching aim of the present series of studies was develop and initially validate an instrument accessing toxic masculinity white men in college, focusing on white men to validate the crucial traditional masculinity. Often, what the fuck? Focusing on white men to validate was crucial as traditional masculinity is often attributed to white masculine elites. Bro, say what? You don't see like black dudes like running up and shooting up things and shit like that, stabbing people. I think that is toxic masculinity, if any. And the primary research, it's like you're doing it on 400 people, man. 400 white men. Like, come on. The primary research objective were therefore using quantitative, open-minded question to develop a data-driven definition of toxic masculinity and potential items of toxic masculinity. Instrument use a cross-section sample of white men currently enrolled in colleges, such as strength of the proposed items and the factors, structure, the use of different sample of white men enrolled in college to assess the psychometric properties of proposed toxic masculinity scale, including the revisited structure and internal consistency to test reliability, retest reliability, and construct validity theoretical framework. For the instrument development process was informed by the first place in quantitative approach. We initially focused the data to follow the data to avoid bias. Okay, yeah, you guys don't overfit. Okay, from the research team to allow natural evolution and instrument items, essentially using a grounded theory approach. What is this? It's not real. If you like search something and this shit, okay, Strauss. If this shit like comes up, this is just not real. Okay, let's just move on to the next one. A following group theory approach seeks to explain the process of experiencing many men. No prior theory has satisfied explain. Okay. Study 1. Scale item. Okay. The purpose of the study 1 to develop a working definition of toxic masculinity and the toxic masculinity scale pool items. This was achieved through quantitative inquiry, thematic coding. The fuck is that? I think it's something to do with. So it's all white men. So what's. I don't know.
Thematic analysis is a way
Bitch, give me like a YouTube Shorts.
The conclusion of thematic analysis is the point where you develop themes. You develop themes that tell the story of our data. That's how I like to talk about it. So what are these themes? So what are the themes in the first place? Themes are basically like narrative blocks. You can think of them as chapters. I'll be using this analogy to books quite a few times in this video, but it helps to think of them as basically chapters. So these general topics, these general chapters in a book that you present to your audience, and they generally tell them what the story is, what the story of your data is. So if you think about themes as your chapters, then within these chapters is all your description of the theme. It helps.
This guy solved one of the biggest challenges in coding, and the founders of ChatGPT started throwing millions at him. So this is Amjad, and in 2009, he's a computer science.
Qualitative researcher, doctor.
If I assigned you a task of watching 10 episodes of your favorite TV show and then trying to replicate the content as closely as possible to, for example, describe it to me, what would you do? Most likely you would want to start by breaking it down into smaller pieces to reduce the volume of this content and wrap your head around it. You would, for example, want to describe the different separate scenes in detail across each episode and across the whole show. Here they are talking about this problem they have, and here they are driving to the airport. Here they're fighting over a girl. Here someone is having a dinner with his or her partner. If then I asked you a question about some occurring trend or behavior across these various episodes, you would probably try to somehow make sense of the list of various scenes and behaviors that you compiled by looking at them, grouping them when possible to reduce the volume of this data further, and then thinking of similarities or trends to eventually come up with the answer to my questions. If I asked you, for example, what is the most often used strategy to achieve goals in Game of Thrones, you would eventually conclude that things like negotiation, treaties, or battle are what the characters do. So in the above example, what you did is, in essence, first code the data, which is the part where you describe it in detail, and develop themes to answer my research question. And this is exactly what happens in thematic analysis. Thematic analysis involves coding, then revising and organizing these codes, and concludes with using the codes to come up with themes, which are essentially topics and patterns that demonstrate how the data answers the research questions. But it always starts with coding. Although the name coding may be a little bit overwhelming at first, in practice it's actually a relatively straightforward process. It involves labeling the data with specific names to reduce the amount of information and break it down into more digestible chunks in order to eventually understand the data so well that we can describe it in terms of themes or topics that help us answer the research questions. When you think about the example that I started with, coding is describing the different scenes, events, and sequences. In the case of interview data, it would involve describing what is being said in a given line, sentence, or paragraph. Approaches to coding may differ in how detailed they are, but I generally recommend being quite detailed. As you build up this list of codes, it helps to think of them as a table of contents of your data. You want to make sure that this list accurately describes what was said in the data so that you can rely on this list without having to read the full transcripts again. After a while, and this may either happen after coding several files or when you're done coding all of them, you may start to notice some patterns, either in the same codes being used again and again, or maybe in seeing codes that share some characteristics or are related to some broader topic. At the same time, it is likely that your coding framework is a bit messy, which is understandable and a normal part of the coding process. It is a sign, however, that it may be the time to review and organize these codes. This does not have to be anything complex, and you just want to think of any common sense way to organize them that will help you make sense of what you have in your data. It's just as if you were cleaning a room and decided to organize things into several piles, clothes here, pencils there, etc. Same thing happens with the codes at this stage. In a study of a teacher's experiences of teaching during the pandemic, for example, you may notice that you have several codes referring to struggles and challenges and decide to group these codes together. You may create a separate group that involves involves codes about perceived benefits or codes about coping strategies if you feel that this helps you organize and make sense of the data. The point here is just that, to make sense of the data and understand even better what it is telling us. After this stage, you're moving towards developing your themes, which, by the way, do have to be developed by you. They don't just emerge by themselves. We often talk about emerging themes, but as much as I like this to be the case, they just don't emerge by themselves, so you do have to develop your themes. And what this means is that you will be looking at various codes categorized into several groups, and then looking at your research questions and names, trying to establish what you really know about the data now, and how these codes help you answer the research question. Once you have the answer to this, you'll start building your thematic framework using your available tools, which are your codes. The aim here is to make sure that this framework includes everything needed to tell the reader the story of your data, that it tells the reader the answers to your research questions. You want to make sure that the reader knows what you know and what you want him or her to know about your data, and this is the final aim of thematic analysis. If you'd like to know more about the details of these processes described in this video, feel free to look at those of resources below the video. Meanwhile, if you enjoyed this video and learned something new, please leave a like to help others find it. So in this video, I'll explain what thematic analysis is and how to do it, and also explain how.
Okay, got a rough idea. The review from the content expert to establish the face validity of the proposed items. Participant characteristics. Okay, it's actually 23 non-binary. That's funny. So you have it's an overall study, I think. It's 721 participants. Why? Okay, this is like a different study, I think. 197 men. Bro, what is non-binary bitches doing in here? The fuck? What the fuck is this, bro? And there was 6 gender fluid. Oh my god. Gender fluid. Sona is an online participation recruitment management system used by University Worldwide. Participants ages ranged from 0 to What is this? Okay. So the participants' age is from 18 to 54. Mean age is 21. Mean is 21. And standard deviation is. How is that possible, bro? Browski. Browski. Come on, Browski. So the rule of thumb is Rule of thumb is normal distribution. In a normal distribution, so one standard deviation is this. Fuck! What is going on? What is going on? 3 standard deviation. There were 88 additional adult white graduates participating in these recruits through online crowdsourcing platform Prolific. Prolific is a different online research platform that matches researchers with eligible participants as an alternative to Amazon MTurk research platform. A peer and colleague determined the white Prolific was slightly lower than MTurk. It was faster than university samples. Okay. Additionally, their research were found the prolific samples replicated existing result, delivered higher quality data than either a university sample people. The prolific version of a sample included. Okay. Standard. What the fuck? So in a normal distribution, 68% will fall in the SD1. Okay, that makes sense. All participants were provided with informed consent, and the Oregon State University Institutional Review Board approved the study. All participants were administered an online quantitative survey with 6 open-ended question items. These include: what is your definition of masculinity? How could you define toxic masculinity? How can women display traits of toxic what the fuck toxic femininity? Dumbass. In media describes an instance of toxic masculinity you have seen if they exist. Give an examples of toxic masculinity you observed in person, if any. How have you displayed the traits of toxic masculinity, if ever? What the fuck? Procedures. After receiving the approval from the institution of IBR positivism were recruited through the institution of Sona platform and Prolific. All participants were administered. It's 1,000 people. I mean, it's kind of a participant recruited through Sona. It's 1,000 people, a good sample size. Okay. Quantitative data were initially analyzed by researchers team and working definition of toxic potential instrument items were generated via discussion and predominant themes in data. Using these themes of data from quantitative data, the research team generated the following definition of toxic masculinity. It guided the study's toxic masculinity and over emphasis and indulgence of societal based masculinity traits to extend. A panel of independent expert analyzed the proposed items. When appropriate, recommended removal of items. If multiple experts recommended removal of item, the item was removed from the pool. Result. Okay. A total of generated from initial quantitative analysis. This item pool was 6 independent experts, along with the definition of toxic masculinity, serving a theoretical framework of the projects. Experts were asked to identify the items. They did not reflect the definition. Okay. Removal. So we have 108 items utilized in two phase deemed acceptable for a area. Okay. Phase 2. The purpose of phase 2 was determine the dimensionality of the scale of items, reduce the number of participant characteristic. The sample comprised of white men, cool, who were all enrolled in undergraduate college, cool, who lived in the United States. All participants were provided with informational consent recruitment in Oregon State University. The more than third had income less than, okay. Of course, bro. Come on. Of course. A total of number of participants, region total removed. The samples as the participants were removed for not giving consent. 6. Gender identity question. 1. Failing the first validation test. Strongly I agree with this item. Failing the second for this item. For not disclosing their age. 24. Okay. All participants were admitted an online survey that asked them for demographic information and provided the 100 and toxic masculinity. Participants were asked to rate the level of agreement with a 5-point response. Okay, strongly disagree. Okay. If I can cry, am I weak? A man has a toxic masculine. The men cheating on their partners is natural. Okay. The full scale demonstration, excellent intentional consistency. Okay. Cool. And receiving the approval of institution, IBR participants were recruited through the prophylactic data analysis. Analyze the data with SADA. What the fuck? Using this is social science, economics. Okay, give me a piss break. It's like a software. Okay. Version. Okay. The p value is less than 5. Okay, p value is less than 0.05. Kaiser and How do you even measure it? The data is pseudo factor analysis because the correlation among the variables are strong enough and the sample is adequate. Okay. Is a term used in once the data was access to suitable factors for analysis and exploratory work. Okay. Okay, I need to learn what the sphericality provides. Hello, what's up, guys? Subscribe to my YouTube channel.
Understanding the p-value. One of the most important concepts in statistics is the meaning of the p-value. Whenever we use Excel or other computer packages to analyze data, one of the key outputs is the p-value, or sig. In formal terms, the p-value is the probability that, if the null hypothesis were true, sampling variation would produce an estimate that is further away from the hypothesized value than our data estimate. In less formal terms, the p-value tells us how likely it is to get a result like this if the null hypothesis is true. We will now go through this step by step with an example. Helen sells chocolate. Recently, she has received complaints that the chocolate have fewer peanuts in them than they are supposed to. The packet says that each 200-gram packet of chocolate contains 70 grams of peanuts or more. Helen can't open up all the packets to check, as then she wouldn't be able to sell any, so she decides to use a statistical test on a sample of the packets. The null hypothesis, often called H0, is the thing we are trying to provide evidence against. For Helen, the null hypothesis is that the chocolate are as they should be. The mean or average weight of peanuts in the packet is 70 grams. The alternative hypothesis, called H1 or HA, is what we're trying to prove. The customers have complained that the weight of peanuts is less than what it should be, so the alternative hypothesis is that the average weight of peanuts is less than 70 grams. Helen decides to use a significance level of 0.05. If the p-value is lower than this, she will reject the null hypothesis. Having decided on her hypotheses and on a significance level, Helen takes a random sample of 20 packets of chocolate from her current stock of 400 packets. She melts down the chocolate and weighs the peanuts from each packet. If all of the values were lower than 70 grams, with a mean of 30 grams for instance, it would be quite obvious that the bars did not have the required number of peanuts. It is very unlikely that you will get 20 packets with a mean of 30 grams if the overall mean of all the packets in the population is 70 grams. Conversely, if all the values of the 20 packets were much higher than 70 grams, it would be obvious that there were enough peanuts and that there was nothing to complain about. However, in this case, the 20 packets contain the following weights of peanuts, and the mean is 68.7 grams. This caused Helen to ask herself, does this provide enough evidence that the bars are short of peanuts, or could this result just be from luck? She asks her brother to use Excel to find the p-value for this data, comparing with a mean of 70 grams. The p-value is 0.18. Judging from the data that we have, there is an 18% chance of getting a mean as low as this or lower if there is nothing wrong with the bars. That is, if the null hypothesis is true and the mean weight of nuts is 70 grams or more. This p-value of 0.18 does not provide enough evidence to reject the null hypothesis. In this case, Helen does not have evidence to say that the bars are short of peanuts. This is a relief. The smaller the p-value is, the less likely it is that the result we got was simply a result of luck. If the p-value had turned out to be very small, we then would say that the result was significantly different from 70 grams. In general, we start by saying that the null hypothesis is true. We take a sample and get a statistic. We work out how likely it is to get a statistic like this if the null hypothesis is true. This is the p-value. If the p-value is really, really small, then our original idea must have been wrong, so we reject the null hypothesis. P is low, null must go. A small p-value indicates a significant result. The smaller the p-value is, the more evidence we have that the null hypothesis is probably wrong. If the p-value is large, then our original idea is probably correct. We do not reject the null hypothesis. This is called a non-significant result. The p-value tells us whether we have evidence from a sample that there is an effect in the population. A p-value less than 0.05 means that we have evidence of an effect. A p-value of more than 0.05 means that there is no evidence of an effect. Sometimes a significance level different from 0.05 is used, but 0.05 is the most common one. Disclaimer. This video uses plain language to get difficult ideas across. Some terminology might be viewed as incorrect by a rigorous statistician.
Well, let's just move on. Once the data was assessed to stay suitable for the factors analysis, explanatory factor analysis. Okay. So what is factor? So I need to look into factor analysis. We got fucking eigenvectors. Shit. I know what eigenvectors are. I've learned about it. Interferential statistics. Inferential statistics. Cool. Yeah, it's effects of sight practical significance.
Welcome to another episode of Not Related, an episode you may have not heard before, because this episode, I'm recording this audio right here on January 20th, 2020, but this episode I actually recorded a long, long time ago in a live stream forever, and I will say back of books that I get into this, it's going to be me talking through the whole thing, me of a couple months, weeks, academia is totally off base. Anyway, I won't spoil it. This one's a slow burn episode, but it's probably one of the more important ones. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. See you next time. There is a specter haunting the world, the specter of null hypothesis statistical testing. Welcome everyone to a long-awaited episode of Not Related. It's been a couple months since I actually did one of these, but this episode we're going to talk about something that I think it's one of those things, I say this nearly every episode, but it goes unmentioned too often. In this episode we're going to talk about how nearly the entire procedure for using statistics in academia in many different subjects is in fact massively off the mark, totally different than what it should be based on misunderstandings. We'll also talk about Ronald Fisher as he tries to solve the problem of induction in philosophy and where academic folklore comes from. That is, where is it that academics occasionally acquire cargo cult-like characteristics in their behavior? And of course we'll address other things like the replication crisis and why most published academic papers are false. We'll talk about that famous article back from 2005, I think it was. But anyway,
Bro, why is my internet so slow? Oh my god. I think I need to delete something. No, it's my computer. Oh my god. Some dude is mining some Bitcoin.
using statistics in academia in many different subjects is in fact massively off the mark, totally different than what it should be based on misunderstandings. We'll also talk about Ronald Fisher as he tries to solve the problem of induction in philosophy and where academic folklore comes from. That is, where is it that academics occasionally acquire cargo cult-like characteristics in their behavior? And of course, we'll address other things like the replication crisis and why most published academic papers are false. We'll talk about that famous article back from 2005, I think it was. But anyway, I'll go ahead and give you the summary of the